big news is that today, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer talked tough on cutting legal immigration. It will take you 10 years to obtain British residency. He's cutting foreign workers in the care sector, and migrants, as well as their dependents, will have to speak English. Do you believe a word he says? This is the same man who signed a letter blocking the deportation of Jamaican criminals. Several of those on board that plane were convicted of rape, GBH, robbery and drug offences. His maiden speech as an MP, first speech as an MP in 2015, criticised Tory deportation policies.
As we now celebrate the 800th anniversary of Magna Carta, let us affirm the principle that human rights apply to everyone equally. Any proposed British Bill of Rights inconsistent with that principle will not be worth the paper it's written on and will face widespread opposition.
OK, he said there is a racist undercurrent that permeates all immigration law. He said the Labour Party needed to make the case for more immigration.
The Labour Party's been a bit scared of making the positive case for immigration for quite a number of years. I think we need to turn that round. The whole of the United Kingdom is better because of immigration.
The whole of the United Kingdom is better because of immigration. He demanded free movement with the EU post-Brexit and even wanted EU nationals to have full voting rights. But it's not just the Prime Minister, it's the whole Labour top team. Yvette Refugees Welcome Cooper wanted us to take more asylum seekers.
So it is time for us to do more. And yes, the politics are difficult, but not if we do this together. It's time for the government to pull together an urgent national conference to work with communities and councils to see how many places we can offer to refugees from Syria and the Mediterranean.
What changed, Yvette? What changed? Pat McFadden, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, in 2018 said immigration debates dehumanise people. Oh, where's he today, then? Is he out backing this? Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner in 2021 said our NHS would collapse without the staff who were born overseas and they deserve better than cheap xenophobia. Well, does she now have to go? How can she stand behind a man who today is pushing these so-called xenophobic policies? The Prime Minister also said this today.
Growth question. I do think this is worth taking some time on because the theory that higher migration numbers necessarily leads to higher growth has been tested in the last 4 years. So we've had the highest net migration when the last government lost control to nearly 1 million. And stagnant growth. And so that link doesn't hold on that evidence.
Yeah, so Keir Starmer there, OK, saying what people like me and loads of you at home or wherever you're listening on the radio have been demonised for saying for years, that there is not a solid economic argument for mass immigration. And now he's coming out and saying it, despite calling people, you know, every name under the sun for daring to say that years ago. Well, Foreign Secretary David Lammy said this back in 2018. All the evidence shows, both EU and non-EU migrants are hugely beneficial to the UK. Almost every politician knows this, mastermind himself there, of course. So, does he agree with today's announcement, or does he have to go as well? Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson attacked Tory party plans to lower student migration numbers in 2023. So has she had a change of heart as well? Sir Keir Starmer has built a professional career, a political career, and quite possibly a friendship circle around being pro-mass immigration, pro-multiculturalism, and saying that it's great for the UK economy, and that people who oppose that are probably a massive racist. Well, today, he is asking you to believe that he now thinks the opposite. I think he's taking the British public for fools, don't you? Let's get thoughts from my wonderful panel this evening. We, of course, have journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, Labour Party activist Chris Worrell, and the former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, I don't use this word lightly, because Keir Starmer will deny this. Is he just lying to everyone?
Yes, I think he is lying. I mean, we have concrete examples of his lies. You've just shown some of them there. You know, our borders are never going to be secure under Keir Starmer. He has spent decades with his party applauding the number of migrants coming into this country. You know, we know, the stuff that he said, you named some there. He said all immigration laws are racist. He said we should give all foreigners the vote. You're suffering with your curry, aren't you?
I am.
Your eyes are watering.
I'll be really honest with you, everyone at home. Very serious topic.
Yes.
I currently have a chili at the back of my throat.
Yes.
So carry on.
Yeah, you definitely have. Your eyes are
Yeah.
watering.
Yeah.
He said, everything he did today is only going to get reform a few more 100,000 votes because we know he's a fraud. This is fraudulent. They've all been campaigning for years to get more migrants in here, and it's not, and now he's saying they don't. Nothing in this paper will turn people away from reform. And he's trying to say today in that speech, he said, this wasn't a political speech. He's saying all this because it's the right thing to do. Well, he didn't think it was the right thing to do before the reform wins last Thursday. Suddenly he thinks it is the right thing to do.
No, Jake, it's not just Keir Starmer, it's everyone. It's Yvette Cooper, it's Angela Rayner, it's David Lammy, it's all of that stuff. They have been saying the opposite of today's announcement for at least the last 20 years. So how can we believe a word they say?
Well, look, they're in a blind panic, aren't they? So Reform gave the Conservative Party particularly, but also the Labour Party, an absolute battering last Thursday. And they're sort of all mainstream, large political parties are running around saying, what do we do, what do we do, what do we do? The truth is, this is Labour's reaction to it. But Keir Starmer was challenged 3 times today at that press conference. Will you confirm that immigration will be below 500,000 people a year? And he refused to answer.
Yeah.
Now, let's put that into context. Their target is to build 300,000 houses a year, 1.5 million in this parliament. So let's think about that. So even if they built every house they said they're going to build, which, by the way, they won't, but let's be charitable and say that they will, that still wouldn't be enough just to house the immigrants that are going to be in the country. And this is why people are so angry. This is why they're turning for reform. That's why Reform's narrative around let's have net zero migration, let's keep the numbers where they are today is so popular. And this is a panic response and a man who doesn't believe a word he's saying himself.
Well, let's put that. So, Chris, is Keir Starmer there standing up before the nation and admitting that he was been wrong all his life, or is he lying?
He's implementing what he got elected on his manifesto. If you look at the manifesto from 2024, Stronger Foundations is a section, talks about restoring order to asylum, the asylum system, talking about increasing negotiation of removal agreements, and a number of other things like putting in people to actually deport them, as well as the Border Security Command Bill. I mean, the thing about reform is, it's just the Brexit Party reincarnate. We had Nigel Farage in 2019. Stepped down 300 MPs when he could have had a say in the Brexit agreements. He bottled it. So now we've got all the people that have, battled for Brexit, all moaning about all this stuff that's happened today, when literally what has been announced today has all been put in the manifesto plan in 2024 and it's all been elected on, and he's implementing it.
His manifesto said he was going to stop the vote and he hasn't even made a dent in stopping
Can I zone in on something? Can I zone in on something that I must say I found really annoying, actually, which is the immigration stuff. Sorry, the immigration stuff. The economic side of it. Yeah, I found that really
funny, that.
The economic side of it, yeah. I've been hiding it. The economic side of it. OK, so it's him saying now, essentially, that the economic case for mass migration has been shattered. Well, we've all been living that for ages. And for as long as I can remember, if you said that there's no serious economic case for mass immigration...
Far-right extremist, aren't you?
Far-right extremist.
Starmer.
Yeah.
And
in
what
fact,
I find interesting
can I just say, one of his own MPs today likened that strangers on the island quote to actually far-right. He said that's far-right. So his own party are accusing him now of being far-right. Well, it's one of your MPs.
People like Upsana Begum, people like Claudia Webb, who I know are not entirely involved in the Labour Party, but come from that wing of politics, were in the Labour Party, are comparing him to Enoch Powell, Chris.
It's lazy and dishonest to be considering that at the end of Enoch Powell. It's about, it's not scapegoats, it's about solutions. And we've got to make sure that he's not rejecting migrants, not driving a wedge on race issues.
How many migrants coming into the country is acceptable? We think 500,000 a year?
I'm not going to put numbers on it at the end of the day. Because you talk about...
The person who's got real questions to answer on this is Boris Johnson, who was on your show last Thursday, I believe, talking about the E-Day. Brilliant show.
Thank you.
Because, of course, under his watch, when he became Prime Minister, net migration was 187,000 a year. When he left, it was 1 million.
It was.
And as Boris Johnson shows a bit of ankle to the British public and thinks about coming back into British politics, what he has to justify is that Boris wave. Why did it go up to...
But you had the Migration Observation Committee actually putting all these things. To be fair to Boris, that was legal migration and just ramped it up.
Can I ask you a direct question?
Yeah, go on the economic side.
If Starmer was still in opposition and the Tories had announced exactly this today, what do you honestly think he'd have said about it?
Well, look, the thing about the economic point you made earlier is that the data is different now. You know, it's across Europe they've been finding between EU and non-EU migration, you've got dynamic and
a nation of strangers, because that implies that multiculturalism has failed, doesn't it?
Well, we're a British society, we're not a multicultural society. I've always said that. And I think we've got to make sure we're not invoking any sort of, you know, race-baiting politics. It's about fixing dysfunction, and that has been in the manifesto from day one.
But this is just ineffectual tinkering. Yvette Cooper has said this will only reduce immigration by 50,000. That is about the same number of illegal people who came in here last year. Exactly. So it's not going to make any difference
I've got some breaking news. Sorry about this. Sorry to cut you off in your prime.
Sorry, darling.
Apologies, but I think you want to comment on this.
Oh, I'll go on.
So, some hugely embarrassing breaking news for the Prime Minister this evening. Our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, has just phoned in and he's told us we can now reveal around 600 small boat migrants arrived in the UK today alone. So that's the latest from our Home and Security Editor. That breaking news there. I mean, this is, you know, just yet again, the weather's supposed to be quite good tomorrow, isn't it? So maybe we'll see a similar number come across. Yeah, look, I do, Jake, this is a guy, Keir Starmer, who has made a career, an actual professional career out of going into bat for people like this that we've seen Culture. Then also a political career out of doing it. His maiden speech in the House of Commons was about this kind of stuff and how we need to be kinder. He's then also, I would guess, and I don't really need to guess because I do know a bit about this, that his friendship circle is entirely based, or not entirely, sorry, that's unfair, is largely based around people who don't believe in strong borders, who don't believe in deportations and all of this stuff. I don't think he's going to do anything about this, because after politics, he's got to go back and go to those same dinner parties. And he is going to be persona non grata if he starts shipping people off.
Well, I just don't think he'll do it. And I think what Carol was about to go on and say is that quite a lot of this... Well, let's put it into context, though. Bit of quick maths. That's cost the British taxpayer £7.2 million on the Home Office's own figures, 12,000 a year, even though that's far too low, just in one day. That's the additional cost of the British taxpayer for housing those people, £7.2 million. But I think what Carol was about to say is quite a lot of the proposals in this don't even come in till 2028.
Yep.
This is just an exercise in trying to grab headlines. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever.
And the business about the judges saying that he's going to tell them to not be taking these ridiculous excuses. You know, Theresa May tried that back in 2012 and the judges ignored him. And the fact he's now made this fresh commitment to the ECHR means he's not going to deport them. He also, let me just say this, he has an Attorney General who has said he will not defy any ruling by the ECHR. Yeah. So how's he going to deport all these people?
Yeah, all right. I mean, Chris, just a point on this, really. I mean, Keir Starmer now saying that he's going to do all these things, tougher English tests, cutting down on the care sector, clamping down on all of this. Do you think he's a racist?
It's not a hate crime to make someone want to learn English. At the end of the day, we've got to make sure we're focused on integration, and, that's the way it should be. I mean, the thing about those boats coming over, none of them are going to be able to get citizenship. That's the Labour policy that's been in place. And that's for the ECHR. If we sort of remove ourselves from this European Convention of Human Rights, what will happen is, with two-thirds of the world we can't deport. Even if we want to deport the countries that we can deport to, we're not going to be able to, because they're going to say you don't comply with human rights. You've got trade deals reliant on it. You've got the Good Friday Agreement reliant on it.
Two things. First of all, you say they're not going to be able to get citizenship. Absolutely wrong. If they have a successful asylum application, the current Labour government's
that's not the policy.
That they get citizenship. The Conservative policy was that they would be deported for the crime.
That's not the policy.
And on the human rights point, Australia isn't in the ECHR.
No, France or Germany, they still deport, no problem.
North America, America or Canada, they deport people.
Who are we going to deport it to? France.
We're going to have to go. Look, it's up to... We could. Everyone at home, listening on radio, whatever you're doing, you can make your minds about whether or not you believe what Keir Starmer and that lot has had to say, but it's another thing for the likes of Angela Rayner and David Lammy, after Starmer's done the pensioners and the farmers and business owners over, that they have to line up behind that guy after a kicking in the local elections and say, I still back him. How many more of their beliefs are they going to compromise? How many more? Anyway, it's time for our